been resting in a cryonic deep freeze for 10 years.
Emergency.
Then a mistake-turned miracle brought him back to life.
They're going to give my son back to me.
He's alive.
Pleasure doesn't have to be cold-blooded.
Yet something human is missing.
That's how I like it.
Michael Beck, Laura Johnson, Beatrice Straight, and Paul Sorvino star in this icy tale of terror and betrayal. A nightmare born of 20th century technology.
I gave him life a second time.
Chiller. Next.
Hey there, OCB Communications. Welcome back to another review, this time of the 1985 TV movie Chiller. Which, I hate to do this, you know, especially after Wes is no longer with us, but I'm pretty sure he'd be alright with me ranting on this, because it deserves it, in my opinion. This movie sucks. This movie's a shitter. It's a pisser. It's a snoozer. It's too full of filler. It's not a thriller. It's just as bad as Thinner. Chiller is a piece of shit. It's a frozen, freeze-dried pile of garbage. It's a TV movie directed by Wes Craven. Wes's direction is okay. He does the best he can with what he has to work with, which isn't that much. And there are a few shots in the film that show some decent camera work by Wes, some POV shots and so forth and so on. Some of the performances were all right. Beatrice Straight, who you might recognize her from her role in Poltergeist as Dr. Lesh, she has her moments in this film as well. There are some times though where her performance feels a little bit overwrought, so could have toned it down a little bit because it's a little bit too melodramatic. Michael Beck, Dallas from Megaforce, he actually does a really good job in the role here as this character named Miles Creighton. He plays the lead pretty much of the film. Unlike what the VHS or the DVD box cover art will tell you, it's Paul Sorvino. Paul Sorvino is not the lead in this. It's Michael Beck. Plays a character named Miles Creighton, who died 10 years ago, and then he's frozen cryogenically, and then he's brought back to life, and, well, he's not the same guy, because his soul ended up not reuniting with the body, and what you have is just a cold, lifeless husk. So it's pretty much deals with the same sort of things that you see in more superior films like Flatliners or Pet Sematary. I know this film came out before those movies, but those movies are miles better than Chiller, because at least it's not a snoozer. At least those aren't snoozers. This is so boring. It's so boring, I swear to God. I wanted to shut it off about halfway through. I yawned like 5 or 6 different times while I was watching it. I got an hour in, and my cat was meowing outside my door because I wanted to be fed, and I was like, you know, fuck it. I'd rather feed my cat, because that would be much more eventful than watching this shitty movie. So anyway, it's written by J.D. Feigelson, who also helped produce the film. It has music by Dana Kaproff, which is alright. Casio, guitar stuff. It's nothing that's really that spectacular. And it's edited by Dwayne Hartzell, who didn't really do that much, to be honest. And I watched it on the first airing, because I found online a VHS rip of the first airing of the film, which is a Wednesday night movie on CBS. And this is the version that has extra footage that isn't in the version that's on the DVD or the VHS. So the only way you can see it uncut, I guess, is on the original broadcast version. It doesn't really mean much, really. And it's not only a waste of Wes Craven in my mind, it's also a waste of some pretty good makeup effects by Stan Winston. Stan Winston Studios, or Stan Winston himself, he did the effects for this. And there's a particular sequence in the film where Michael Beck is in a coma after his body cryogenically unfroze. Because what happened is, in the beginning of the movie, they show you this cryogenics lab, and something's going, and the film tries to trick you into making you think that, oh, it's somebody's stalking this guy because of the POV camera, and so it's supposed to be something like Halloween, but you know it's nothing really. And then you find out, okay, it's not. It's just it's just a security guard. And then you find out that one of the cryogenic pods is malfunctioning and it's thawing out, and it's Michael Beck's pod, Miles Creighton. And then you also get introduced to his mother, played by Beatrice Straight, Marion. Uh, you also have Jill Schoelen, who you might be familiar with. I like Jill Schoelen. She's all right in this. I remember her from Popcorn. She was also in Phantom of the Opera with Robert Englund, and so she was also in Cutting Class, I believe, with Brad Pitt and Donovan Lettich. And I've always liked Jill Schoelen, and I've always enjoyed her, to be honest, as an actress. And she's in this as a bit role. She plays Beatrice Straight's character's adopted daughter, um, Stacy. And Paul Sorvino has a bit role. He plays a reverend named Reverend Penny. And then you have some guy named this guy's name is Alan Fudge, plays Dr. Strickland. Yeah, and this movie's Fudge, all right. The kind that comes out of your ass and and it won't flush. But anyway, so you have that's the cast. There's a few other people. I don't even want to bother mentioning them because I don't really want to deal with it. I really want to talk about this movie. I want to talk about this movie. I don't want to talk about this movie for that long. I really don't. Anyway, so Miles Creighton is cryogenically preserved. His storage tank malfunctions, begins to thaw. Miles is then rushed to a hospital. His mother, played by Beatrice Straight, Marion, who has missed her son terribly during his 10-year incapacitation, arranges for surgeons there to perform a procedure that was not possible when Miles was originally frozen. The operation is then a success, and Miles is revived. And he's in a little coma, kept alive by life support. And of course, before the operation, the doctor says, it might not work. He says, "We'll do it anyway. I haven't waited this long for nothing. All right, well, just let you know, could be a long night." I'm like, well, if you decide to pop this movie in, you're gonna be in for a long night. Trust me, because the movie's gonna drag on what feels like forever. It's gonna completely freeze you solid due to sheer boredom. So yeah, you're gonna be in for a long night if you decide to watch Chiller. So anyway, Miles returns to the company which his father, now deceased, has started. He ruthlessly strips down anything that the company does not require to be profitable, which includes charity, and fires the man responsible for keeping the company running in Miles' absence. A series of mysterious deaths occur, and circumstantial evidence implicates Miles. Of course, the mysterious deaths are really lame, where, his the guy who used to run the company, Dr. He's not a doctor, his name is Clarence Beeson, played by Dick O'Neill. He ends up dying of a heart attack because Michael Beck just runs up the stairs and tells him to come and meet me if you want your job, because he fired him earlier, and the guy is in bad health, so he dies. It's rather uneventful. Didn't even see Michael Beck shove him down the stairs. Nope, 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 no. And before I forget, I'm gonna go backwards because I was in the process while I was talking about Michael Beck being frozen. There's someone Stan Winston. Stan Winston, there's a really good bit of practical makeup effects in the scene where Michael Beck first awakens out of his coma. And it's really effective use of bladders and so forth and so on. It's a really effective sequence. It's one of the few sequences in the film I actually like. And I like how Michael Beck's eyes are this really unearthly, strange looking. I think it's like red mixed with maybe a little bit of yellow, and it's really unnerving. And so anyway, Michael Beck strips everything in the company, uh, kills the guy because of overexertion that was gonna originally had who took over the company. Beats up on this one chick who's pretty hot actually. The Leigh Kenyon, played by Laura Johnson. You don't actually see him beat her up. Well, you see him like bend her arm backwards because she's all like, "Oh, pleasure doesn't have to be so cold." And he's like, "But that's the way I like it. Ah! Yeah, and then cuts to the next scene where you find her and she's gotten beaten up by him, black eyed, some scratches on her face, and she ends up quitting. Then what happens is Paul Sorvino ends up he ends up getting he basically feels that there's something going on here because he's not getting the donations from the church for the church from the company that he got before because uh Michael Beck is all like, screw you and screw your charity, fuck churches, I don't want anything to do with it. And so Paul Sorvino's wondering what's going on, and he ends up having these thoughts that what happens to the human soul? Like, what does it stay with the body? What happens to the soul if the body's brought back to life? Is it going to stay up there in heaven, or is it going to reunite with the body? And that's actually one scene in the film I thought was actually pretty interesting and well performed by Paul Sorvino, where he's talking to one of his church friends while he's in the church and asking her what happens to the soul, does it stay with the body and so forth and so on. And then he ends up going for a walk at night, meets Michael Beck, who then basically shows up to jump scare the audience. And he basically tells him, "You're not Miles Crichton, you're something else." Because we came to this assumption that, well, I don't think Miles' spirit, his soul, came down from heaven to reunite with his body. I think what we have is just the body and the mind alive, but it has no soul. So it's bad. So the dead is better, pretty much. It's the Pet Cemetery. It's like dead is better. Exactly, dead is better. Just let the guy die. Because when he comes back to life, the spirit isn't there with him. This stuff's been handled in much better in other movies. And so Michael Beck doesn't like Paul Sorvino, doesn't like his face, so closes the car door in his jacket and drags him alongside the road while he drives at full speed. Then ends up running him over, and then he ends up in the hospital, implicates him as the killer, as the guy who tried to kill him, and then he goes in, sneak attacks Joe Schoelen, tries to get a little, snatch in front of the fire. She doesn't want any of that. Beatrice Straight comes in just in time, tells her to go lock herself in a room. She confronts a Michael Beck, who takes like a hook off a wall. He's going to try to kill Beatrice Straight with it. She then leads him into the freezer, locks his ass in there. And then she calls the cops. The cops come in, and they look around the freezer, see him froze, and he has no pulse. Grabs a cop, starts strangling him. And then Beatrice Straight ends up shooting her son, which isn't really her son, but it looks like her son, shoots him dead. So, and then she goes to check his pulse, and then he wakes up again, and you see his creepy eyes, and then he then dies, and then the movie pretty much ends on this, really, like, it's a note where it's trying to, it almost feels like a preachy movie, like a movie that's trying to be like, oh, you better believe in your religion and the Bible, because they're right, and you atheists are wrong because your soul doesn't, you're brought back to life, and your soul will not reunite with your body, and I guess you're gonna have some, I don't know, some fucking evil husk walking around in your body, I guess. I guess, so to speak. And Paul Sorvino's in bad shape, and the doctor says probably won't make it. We're doing everything we can, and Beatrice Straight is like, well, you can do more, right? It's like, no, but there is one thing, and they're like, oh, is she gonna like put him in cryo? And then it's like, no, you could pray. And it's just like, yes, all right, okay. And I'm like, fucking preachy ass shit. And then the movie ends with something that's more interesting than the movie that you saw, which is just full of fucking filler and padding and boring business shit. And Michael Beck, he does a good job playing an icy cold creeper, but he has nothing to do except just stand there look menacing, say a few creepy lines of dialogue, look creepy, kill a dog because the dog is freaked out at him because it knows that this guy isn't who he looks like he is. It knows it's not his good buddy, Miles. It's some other thing. And so Michael Beck doesn't have that much to do because the script doesn't give him that much to do or to work with. To be honest, I think it would have been cooler if you made him kind of like a cryo vampire. That's what I thought it was going to be. It was like a cryo vampire. He's got to feed in order to survive, and then you have scenes later in the film where he feeds on people to survive. That'd be more interesting to me. A cryo vampire. That's interesting. Or you have the cryo zombie route, which is what they're doing. And then why is it that every time there's a movie that deals with cryo zombies, it sucks? Chiller sucks. The chilling sucks. Why is this idea not able to be done properly? I think it'd be really cool if they did executed it properly, but they failed to execute it both times they tried to do this. It's just really too bad. I would be totally fine with a remake of this movie of Chiller. Give it a budget, and then you have more of what you had leading up to at the end, where the cryo facility malfunctions, and now all of the cryo zombies are going to come to life, and they're going to be walking husks of themselves without their spirits and souls, and they're going to be evil, and then somebody's got to take care of it, and somebody's got to kick some cryo vampire zombie ass. That would be awesome, but no, we don't have that, because the movie just ends with that, and that's it. That's the ending. And you're like, I want to see that movie. Well, no. Sorry. Too bad, so sad. You're stuck with Chiller, which is such a shitter. So anyway, I really don't know what else to say about Chiller, except it's rated out of 5 stars. I liked it a little bit. I didn't really like this film at all. So I'm kind of like, I liked it a little bit more, maybe, than Invitation to Hell, but no, the more I think about it, yes, it had stronger performances by the cast than Invitation to Hell did, but Invitation to Hell at least had the last half when Robert Urich puts on the spacesuit and goes into hell. This was just dull, boring, pathetic. It was so boring, I swear to God. It was freezing my dick off and then shoving it up my ass. And out my mouth. It was just a really boring ass fucking movie. Freeze my balls off. Then they fall on the ground, and then I fucking slip and fall on them, and I fall on my ass and knock myself out because I'd rather be out cold than watch this fucking movie again. But anyway, I really don't know what else to say. I guess a rate out of 5 stars. I'm gonna give it one and I'm gonna give it 1. This is the worst Wes Craven film I've seen so far. It's just so insufferably boring, and oh man, it takes forever to thaw out. I don't think it ever did. It was just stayed frozen for the majority of the running time. Anyway, I really don't know what to say except thank you for watching my review, more like rant, on Wes Craven's Chiller, and I will see you guys later. See ya.